Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining. Uh, in this session, we will discuss about Oracle SQL, that SQL database. So let's start. So in this day one, we will go for brief on SQL. Then in next day, we will just go for component of SQL one by one, and we'll get to know about the SQL complete structure. So let's talk about SQL. So when we are saying that SQL, the full form of SQL is structured query language. It's clear with its name only that it's a kind of programming languages that help us to interact or communicate with the database system. So, yes, before going to deep dive into SQL, we will talk about database. So, what is database? Once we will get to know about the database, it will be easy for us to get to know about SQL and work on that. So yes, when we are talking about database, it's a structure where we are generally storing data. We are storing data in tabular form. Obviously, we have in market we have different kind of database available too, which is not going to store data in tabular form, but yes, it's going to store data in object form or that different things. So, for example, if you see database are used to store, manage, retrieve information efficiently. So, obviously, we are using database to store data in system in the database, so that whenever we require to extract the data, we can easily extract the data from database, and that's why database is using table schema, table structure internally, so that we can extract data based on that our desired column and all these things. So if you will see, I told you that when we are talking about database, it's going to store information. It's going to store text kind of information. For example, you can see in the below table, we have employee information or student information. That student information is something like student ID, student name, student role, student marks, email, and mobile number. And we have to store that all this information in database. That's why database object having the table concept, that we are going to create table in database, and in that table we are going to store information. And you are able to see this is the structure of table, each and every table having the rows and columns, and columns are known as field, you can see here, and rows are known as records. So if you are able to see here in the screen, so in the screen there are total 5 rows. It means that there are total 5 records available in this table. And how many columns are there? So you can see there are total 5 columns. And column is also known as field. So when we are talking about field, it means that we are talking about columns available in the table. And when we are talking about records or row, so it means that we are talking about specific records. For example, here you can see we have one agent name as Alex, and this row, complete row, define the details or data or information about Alex. So you can see agent code of Alex is A003, and the working area where he's working, it's London, and the commissions and phone number and all. So that's the way we are going to identify the data. So obviously in starting, I talk about that we have database and that we have database available in different kinds. So the most and common database we are going to use is relational database. That's Oracle SQL is one of the most popular example for that. So we have different database available in the market. For example, we have relational database specifically available in market. For example, Oracle SQL, MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, and but specifically in upcoming sessions, we will talk about Oracle SQL. So in upcoming days, whatever objects or whatever topic we will learn. So if you want to go for Google and search anything, you have to just search for by adding the name as Oracle SQL. For example, you are going to learn about tables. So you will search on Google or whatever you will do, you will get tables in Oracle SQL, not in SQL only. Because if you will see, we have MySQL and SQL Server, that is Microsoft SQL. So there are different slight differences between all these three databases. The differences is writing the code differences is there. So if you will see when we are talking about the types, so yes, we have different types available in market. The first we will mainly majorly focus on the relational database, that's known as RDBMS. Another one is NoSQL database. This NoSQL database is not going to store data in tabular form. It's going to store data in object form. And example of that NoSQL database is you can see that we have Google BigQueries and different database available in the market. And the last and most popular recent date is cloud database. Oracle is also providing cloud database. So what is cloud database and what is RDBMS? All these things we are going to learn in coming days. So now if you will talk about the relational database, you are able to see the structure of relational database is it's organizing data into tabular form. And that when we are saying that storing data into tabular form, it means that having the rows and columns. And obviously, if we have multiple tables available in this database that can be related between all these things, and we have a specific column to relate each and every table. So we will learn all this in upcoming days. And here you can see the which kind of programming languages we are using to work on RDMS, that is relational database. It's a structured query language, that is SQL, we are going to use to interact with database. Example you can see, for example of relational database is Oracle. I told you that Oracle XE is the database. In the last of the session, we will install that software too. We have MySQL, PostgreSQL, SQL, Microsoft SQL Server, and many more. And if you will see the example structure of this database, so for example, we are going to create table and that we have to store the customer information in the table. So what we can do, we can create table name as customer, and the table can have the different columns or attributes. The common column can be customer ID and the name, and based on that there can be customer contact number, customer emails, customer address, and many more. And another table, if you can see, that will be the order. The table will define that this table order table will define that this customer is going to order what kind of things. So here you can see there will be order ID, customer ID, and order date. And here you can see the relationship between this table, the customer table and order table is customer ID. You can see the customer ID is available in the customer table. This is the name of table, customer and orders. And customer ID is also available in the order table. It means that, for example, customer buy three product. So in order table, there will be three row for all these three products, and each and every row will have the value as customer ID, so that it can be easily identified that the customer ID product, customer ID buy what kind of products or items, and they give in orders, and what is the order date, quantity, and all these things can be in the date table. We will learn in upcoming days. And obviously, when we will talk about a relationship, so it will be one to many. That one customer can have multiple or many records or many orders. That's why the relationship between these two tables will be one to many. And yes, another type of database is NoSQL. And a structure, if we will talk about the structure of this database, it will be the data can be stored in non-relational format, such as key pair values, documents, graph. And I told you that when we are talking about RDBMS, it's storing data into tabular form, and the table can have the relation. So for example, here you can see we have two tables, customer and order table, and both table having the relationship between this customer ID. This customer ID is going to make a relationship between this customer table and order table. But in this NoSQL database, we don't have such kind of relationship. It's storing data in non-relational format, and yes, we can identify values or data of that stored in NoSQL database based on key and value pairs. When we are saying that key and value pairs, so key will be our ID and value will be for that specific ID. For example, if you will see in this table, if we have to store this the information in NoSQL database, so our key will be as name and data will be or data or value will be Ashish, Diksha, Manish, or that kind of things will be. So that's the differences between that RDBMS database and then the NoSQL database. And yes, for storing the data and creating and structure everything, they are using the structure. That structure is known as XML and JSON or JSON. Few example of NoSQL database is MongoDB and all. And yes, and last not least, but yes, we have a few more types of database available, but majorly we are going to focus on all these three. Once you will come to in noise in SQL, you will get to know more about database available in the market. So the most common and popular in these days is cloud database. Cloud database is something that available over the cloud and you can access the database from anywhere. For example, when we talk about that relational database, that Oracle SQL, MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, all these are non-cloud database. And the term we are using for non-cloud is on-premise. On-premise, it means that the database we are going to store in our local system. And it's not limited to system that in our residence only. So for example, we are an organization and we want to set up a database. So instead of going for database at cloud, we can just establish our database in one of our room areas, that kind of things. So the database where we are storing, or where we are installing the database in our local system, that is known as non-cloud database, and that's not available over the cloud. For accessing that specific database, we have to get access of that specific system where the database is installed. But in term of cloud database, this cloud database is stored over the cloud, and all any of the user which having the access of that cloud database, they can access from anywhere, not limited to their system, because we know that the database is available over the cloud, and they are just going to give access to us, and based on that we can access the database. Here example of database can be Oracle ATP. That ATP stands for Autonomous Transaction Processing. In OIC, in next coming days, when we will learn new technologies where we will get to know about Oracle ATP database. We have Amazon RDS, Google Cloud SQL, Azure SQL database, and many more available. So all this, like obviously, we will come to know about all these things. And when we will talk about the structure of database or the components of database. So always most common and the major components is table, where we are going to store data. So you can see that this is the structure we created to store the student information. So that a student underscore TV, you can see this is the name we given to this table, given to the schema. So this is a table we created to store student information, and name of this table is student underscore TV. And these are the attributes. You can see SID is one attribute, S name is second attribute, S rule is third attributes, and all these attributes are known as columns. And for each and every columns, we have records. That records is known as row. It means that if you will see here, we have total 6 rows. It means that the student table is going to store a student table having total number of 6 records available in that database. Nowadays, when we are saying that database table, it means that it's combination of columns and rows. When we are talking about columns, we already discussed that column is also known as fields or attributes. So if we will discuss, so we can say that a student underscore TV, this is the name of the table having the attributes s underscore marks, which contain marks of that specific student. And if you will go for row, as we already discussed, row define the specific record of that the entity. For example, we highlighted one row, that is Maneswar. This employee, the student Maneswar, having their roll number is S0003 and having marks 86. This is their email address and this is the mobile number. So that's we are going to specify that specific record using row. And in Oracle SQL or in Relational Database Management System, that is RDBMS, row is known as tuple. Also, we can say the records. So this is first row having the SID is known for student ID. The first record student ID is 10001. Second row student ID is 10002. Third row having the record ID is 10003, and so on. So if we have to identify any specific records, any specific employee, we want to get the details of any specific employee, we will go for rows so that we can easily identify. For example, we have to find the details of Nikhil, in a student with the name of Nikhil. So we can go, we will search in this table where is the name start with Nikhil. So we get to know about the Nikhil records available here. And the ID of the Nikhil is 10005. And what is the roll number? That S005 is the roll number for Nikhil. Its mark of 10 87, and this is the roll number, this is the email and the mobile number. So this is all about tables, and table having the components, rows and columns. And of this, if we are talking about database, so what kind of things we are going to use in database? So of course, we are going to store some information in database, some meaningful information in database. In previous example, you can see I given example of a student, that for example, this student taken admission in any of the institute, and then this institute taken that records and they want to store somewhere else. That's why they chosen database. In the database, that the organization created table, the name as student TV, and in that table they added these fields, these attributes known as column. And that column is going to store information about all these employees. So the same way, if we will take example of customer information, so obvious the customer can have their name, email address or location. Same for bank transactions. If we are to take example of bank transaction, that can be the account details, account name, transaction history, like how many like transactions they have done in a day, like how many balance available in their account, all these things. For the same product or that inventory items, if we will talk about, they can be the details of product, just like what kind of product is available in their inventories and what is the MRP price of that product, how many products, that is specific products available in their inventories, and what is the expiry date, and that all details related to product we can store. And for that we have to create table. The table can contain all such columns, so that it can be easy to implement in the database, or it will be easy for easy to store database in that data in that database table. So now we will talk about SQL. So we are done with the database. So we will get to know about the database. What is database? That obvious, like we have we have something that some spaces in the space where we have to store information in a text format, just like name, roll number, marks, and all. That's why we require database. In the database, we are going to store information. That information we are going to store in a tabular form, that's known as table in that database. So now if we get to know about that database, now let's come to SQL. So why we are using SQL and how it works. So as I told you that this is the table we created, and in this table we store information of a student. But how the information we are going to store in database? It's not like that we will create one Excel sheet. In that Excel sheet, we will create table and we will store data. This is just for representation purpose. But internally, how data is going to store in database? They are creating table, they are creating columns in the tables, and that for each and every columns, they are going to store records. But how we as a developer are going to interact with the database. So for example, like in real life, if I have to talk with you, right, I have to communicate with you, what I'm going to use? I'm going to use a specific language. So right now I'm using English language to communicate with you, like with you all. So the same way, if system want to communicate with database, that system want to tell database that we are going to store some information in your database, please allow. So how they will communicate? That's why we have SQL. SQL is known as a structured query language. It's a programming language specifically designed to interact with the database. With the help of SQL programming language, we are going to communicate with database, and that communication can be storing data into that database, retrieving data from database. It can be updation of the record available in database, or deleting the records. All these things we can do using SQL. Just like if I have to ask you that leave this call, what I will do? I will tell you that, hey, Amar, can you please drop from the call? It means that once you will listen this point, this statement, you will get to know that I'm asking you to drop from the call. So the same way, if I have to talk with database, I as a system, I have to talk with database and requesting that database to insert few records into the database table, we have to say something to computer, say something to database. The language we will use to communicate with database, that is known as SQL. So here in the we will learn about the SQL structure, SQL format, how we can say, for example, just like in English language, if we have to talk, in English, if we have to talk, we get to know about ABCDs words available in that character. Then after character, we are going to learn about uh, the words. Once we are aware about words, we are going to learn about sentence. And after when we get to know about sentence, we are going to learn about creating a paragraph. So the same way in any of the programming language, we have few specific keywords, few specific words to work on. So we will learn so that we can use that specific statement, specific query to interact with that database. And here you can see query, it means that requirement discussion. So when we are saying that I have few queries to you, Aman, I have few queries to you, can you please answer me all these questions? It means that I want to ask something to you. I need some information from you. So this query is going to help like that only here. So the statement which we are going to write in SQL to interact with database, that is statement is known as query. It means that I will create a query or I will write a query, create table in database. I will write a query to insert records or insert information in database. I will write a query to delete data from database table. So that kind of things we are going to learn. And here, obviously, if you can see that this is our database, the database can have different tables, and user is sitting here and working on their PC, and they want to interact with database. It's not directly going to interact. That's why here you can see they have the flow. They are writing queries. That query is going to execute in that SQL engine. That SQL engine is processing that queries, converting that queries into machine language, and then based on that, it's receiving data from database and displaying data into their system. So that's the flow we are going to learn. And we will work that how we can create database, how we will create table, how to insert data into that table, just like how we will communicate with this table database. So everything we will learn. So now if you will see what SQL can do and what all kind of information or all kind of operations available in SQL to perform, few are the example. You can see SQL can execute queries against the database. So when we are saying that queries, I told you queries is something that a statement or code we have written, that code SQL engine or SQL will understand or database will understand. So that is known as query, right? So SQL can execute, and when we are saying execute, execute term is something that run. When we are saying that done, so if I have to say that we have to start by like, so what we are going to say, we are going to use click or something switch we have available to start the bike. So the process is that when we are going to click on button to start the bike, that is known as execute. So we are going to execute on that button so that the bike can be start. So the same way, we will write a query. Query is the, like code. We will write the code, and that code we want to submit to database so that they can understand. That submitting process is known as execution or execute. That we are going to say that we are going to execute our queries. It means that we are going to submit our queries to a database so that they will understand that queries, whatever we have written, and based on that, it will work on. It will return as a result, or it can delete records and all these things. Then after SQL can retrieve and insert records from or into database. So obviously I told you that SQL, using SQL only we can ask database to insert records into the database table, or we can ask database to delete that specific record from database table. For example, this is our table, and if we want to delete this record, we want to delete the record where its role is S003, we have to write a code and we have to submit that code to a database. It means that we have to run the code in database so that based on that code, they will delete this record from database. So that's the meaning of that point, update or delete. SQL can set permission on database, procedures, and view. So database table we are already aware about. Procedure and views are advanced SQL topics. We will in upcoming days we will get to know about all these things. In simple way, you can say that procedure is a set of code which is already available. We have to use that specific set of code again and again whenever we want. So we don't need to write that code again and again. We already written one code, set of code, and whenever we require that kind of code, we will directly use that code instead of writing that code again and again. That's known as procedure. SQL can create a new database. That's true that we have to create database and we will create one database. Can create a new table in database. Can create a stored procedure. That's the procedure we talked about. Procedure and functions. Can we create views? This is the view. We will talk about this later. So all these things we can do using SQL. And let's see the one example, real life example of that SQL, how it's going to work. So for example, this is our employee registration form that generally if you are filling any form or submitting any details anywhere, so you are going to provide information and there is one button, that submit button or OK button. When we are clicking on that submit button, this information, whatever we have given, that name as a student, roll number as 001, student mark 98, email and mobile number. And when you are going to click on this submit button, this is the front end page, right? For example, you can take it for. This is the front end page that is for employee registration form. And whenever user is going to click on this submit button, in backend of this button, we are going to execute one queries. And I told you when we are saying that execute the query, it means that we are submitting this statement, this code to database. So if you will see the code is simply, if you will try to understand, it's insert into a student TB. We want to insert record into this student TB. What all columns we want to insert? You can see this is the column name, as ID, as name, as role, as marks, email, mobile number. This all columns are in sequence. And what is the value for this column? You can see this is the value. Values keyword, that is the fixed value, fixed text. And this is the value for this SID having a value as 1001. S name is Ashish. S role is S0001. Mark is 98. Email is ashish@gmail.com. And the mobile number is this. So this is the insert command or insert code you can see. So whenever we are clicking on this submit button, internally it will execute this SQL code. We will learn this SQL code in upcoming days. Just for example, I taken a. And what will happen whenever user will click on this submit button, this all information, whatever we provided here, it will be inserted into this table, that student underscore TV. And you can see that this is one example. So once user click on this submit button, that record move to this table, student underscore TV, and this record will be available here. Student ID 1001, name as role as 001. So I took this remaining result as an example, remaining information of the student and an example, so that you can get to know that. In next time, user will come, user will again provide the information of Diksha, Maneshwar, Shubham one by one. And whenever they will click on submit, all this information will move to the database table and it will be stored in this table. So this is the reason we are using SQL, so that the database can understand that we have to insert this information into this database table. So the same way, by clicking on this submit, we inserted records. The same way we can extract record from database. When we are saying that extract word defining that getting something. Extract, it means that getting something. So the same query, the another query, we will write that query to extract the data from database, means get the data from database. So here you can see this is search page, the manage employee page. In this page, we have option to give a student name or a student roll number. So user can provide any of this information, and whatever information user will provide and click on this search button. What it will do, you can see in database backend, it will submit this query that select as ID, as name, as roll number, as mark, email, mobile number from a student table. You can see. So if you will see, if this will directly go and getting all this column from a student table, in a student table, there can have lots of records, lots of SID, name and all. But here user want only that records where student roll number is as 001. That's why here you can see we have written from student TV where S role, that is this column having value as 001. This is the value which we give user given here. And based on that, it will retrieve the data and it will display the data in below text box. You can see they display the data here. And after that, you can see here we have update button. So for example, when user click on this search button, all this value updated, the value got displayed by taking values from here. So in database, value as rcs@gmail.com, mobile number 123 123 something. But now user updated that information. The user changed the mobile number, user changed the email address. Now when user will click on this update button, again in backend, one SQL queries will be executed. It means that one SQL queries will be submitted to database, and based on that, database will update that table's record. And what query it will be there, you can see update student TV, that is the update student table, and set the value for s email is equals to Ashish Kumar 123, the same value which we have here, and s mobile is equals to the new mobile number that we have given, where s role is equals to s001. This is the same value we are saying here. So that in the database table, whatever new values user given, that specific value will be updated into the table. And now after that, our table structure will look like asiskumar123@gmail.com and the mobile number dated. So that's all about that database and that how this database is going to work and like how we are using SQL to interact with database. So here you can see in the example, we use SQL code to insert data into database. This is the first SQL code. We use another SQL code that is select to extract the data from database. And we use another SQL query, SQL code, which is update to modify the record available in the table. So there are many more operations available in SQL. So we will learn all these things, how you will be identified. You will get to know that when we have to use update, when we have to use select, and what column we have to use. Everything we are going to learn in upcoming videos. This is just for example I given you so that you can be aware of you can get to know this how it's going to work. So now here we know that our database. So we are going to work on Oracle SQL database. That's the database example we have here available. This one, Oracle SQL database. This is the database we are going to use for our practice and learning purpose. And for each and every database, right? When we have to interact with database, right? We require SQL queries, right? So we know about SQL queries, what is SQL, how SQL will work. We got to know, right? But where we will execute that SQL queries, right? So right now for communicating with you, I have my PC and I have my Zoom application. Using that, I'm going to communicate with you, right? I'm transferring a voice to you using Zoom application, right? The same way, where our SQL query will be executed so that that SQL query code to be submitted to database. That's why we required one software that is known as IDE, Integrated Development Environment. IDE is a software by which we can execute our code. We can execute our programming languages, syntax, codes, and all. So in this case, we will use SQL Developer IDE to execute our SQL queries, to submit our SQL queries to database, to interact with database. We will use SQL Developer IDE. So remember, SQL Developer is a software that is known as IDE software, which is going to help us to run the SQL queries or execute the SQL queries so that the SQL queries can be submitted to database via this software. And which database we are going to use? We are going to use Oracle XE database. XE is the name of database. Oracle is the organization of that database company, the company of database. So we are going to use Oracle XE for our learning and practice purpose. We can have different database. You can later go and work on that. But generally we prefer Oracle SQL because we will work in Oracle domain. So here you can see I given that a screenshot of this software that from where you can download the software. So you can see you can directly search on Google that Oracle XP database, and yes, you can download that software from there. So for example, if I will go and I have to search that software, so I will go for download Oracle XE database. So in the first page only, the search page, you will get to know that Oracle XE database, XE that expression edition. So once you will click on this, you will get to know about all this version available. So 21C is the latest version for this Oracle database, and the name of the database is XE. So we will, you can directly click here and you can install this database. You can first download database in your system, that the zip file, and once this database will be downloaded, you have to download another software, that is SQL Developer. This SQL Developer is the IDE software on which we are going to execute our SQL code. So again, these products are from Oracle only. We have another IDE available in the market. That one of the IDE you can see here, VS Code, that is Visual Code. Another IDE we have available in the market is TOAD, TOAD. There are many more, but we generally prefer SQL Developer for executing our SQL queries. And here you can see, you can download that SQL code extension for VS Code. No, we don't want extension. You can go for this one, Windows 64-bit with JDK 11 included. So this is the link you have to go for. Just click on this download and you can directly download that software in your system. So I have already downloaded these two software in my system. So now I'm going to let you know that how we can install this software in our system. So you can see here, this is Oracle XE. I already downloaded and unzip this one. So in this XE, you can see we have this one and this is our setup. So there are differences between Oracle XE and SQL Developer. Remember, Oracle XE is database and SQL Developer is IDE or tool where we will execute that queries to interact with database. Right? So please don't be confused that SQL Developer and Oracle XE both are different things. As Oracle XE is a database, or SQL Developer is a software by which we can interact, we can execute our SQL queries to interact with database. The differences between both are there. So now if we have to first, what we will do, first we will install database in our system. So now when we are saying that we have to install database in our system, this is Oracle XE database. And when I will install this Oracle XE database in my system, it means that my PC, my laptop will be considered as a database. And the database will be Oracle XE. So how we can install? So just here, this is the software, this is the setup application. Just you have to double click here and give the permission whatever it required, and you can see that Oracle database 11G expressor. So I used that old one, that is 11G, and the latest one you can see that it was 21C, right? So this was the 21C is the latest, so you can use 21C or 11G, whatever you want you can use. So now I'm going to install. For that, just click on next, and here you have to click on accept so that the software can be installed in your system by agreeing all the term and condition. Go next, and here you can see where this SQL is going to install. This database is going to install. It's going to install in my C drive, and the folder is Oracle XE. So let it be there only. Click on next, and here you can see this is the password of your database that you are going to install in your local system. So you can see this point, enter and confirm password for the database. There we have to pass the password, but make sure that this password will be used for both SYS and the system. So SYS and the system is the default user created by database only. This SYS and the system is the default user created by software created by this database only. And just we have to provide a new password here for this database user. Right? So this is the user system. Our SYS is our user. These two user having all the required permission. That's, you can say that this two SYS is system administrator user. This user having all the required access. So here we have to provide the password. So password you can provide any easy password. So can later you can use. You don't forget. Otherwise you have to uninstall the software, that Oracle database, and again you have to install that. So this is the password, and passwords I will use as WELCOME at the rate 123. WELCOME at the rate 123. So you can use any of the password, whatever you want. So I'm going to use password as welcome at the rate 123. So go next, and it will be installed in few minutes. So this software is going to be installed now. In next session, make sure that in your PC or laptop, whatever you are using, having these two software available, so that whatever example or whatever query I will execute, you can understand all these things and you can do once the session is over. So the task is all of you for today is just go and install these two software in your system. So this is the Oracle database software we are going to install right now, and I will let you know that how you can install or use that SQL developer. Just a hint, SQL developer we are not going to install. It's automatically installed. We don't need to install that SQL developer software. Just we have to download. How it will work, I'm going to show you that. So it's taking a bit time to install. It will be installed in a few minutes. Anyone having any doubt and want to ask anything? Till now, this software is going to install. If you have any questions, you can raise your questions. So once this software will be installed, our PC, the Windows software system will be treated as a database, and then we can create table in that database. We can store data into the table, and all the operations we can perform. By default, when we are installing database, we have the command prompt to access this database. But instead of going for command prompt, we will go for that SQL developer so that it can be easy for us to interact, easy for us to write the code, copy paste all these things. That IDE software, that's the magic of IDE software. When they provide various facilities to deliver our codes and yeah. So you can see the setup is completed. Now we are going to finish. So our SQL Oracle actually is installed. Now we have to go for SQL developer. That SQL developer software is going to use to execute our SQL queries. So I already downloaded the SQL developer tool. You can see SQL developer zip file. When you will download it, will be zip file. So you just have to unzip this file. So I will go and I will extract all and unzip here only. So it's taking a bit time to unzip. So once this software, this file will be unzipped, so this SQL developer, we don't require to install SQL developer anymore. So here you can see this SQL developer folder is available there. In that SQL developer folder, here we have SQL developer folder again. This SQL developer folder having the software that SQL developer.exe. This is the software we have to use to open the SQL developer directly. We don't need to install. So let me just finish this extract part. I think it's done. Now it's going to extract. So once this extraction will be done, I will just use this. So now you can see this SQL developer is extracted now. And this is the folder, that SQL developer folder we got here. So this is the file. So what we will do, we will just directly cut this file from here, and you have to put this file in C drive. So I will directly go to C drive. This is our C drive, and here we have to put the software. So just you can paste it here. So as earlier I was using this software, so I already pasted that. You can see SQL developer folder is available here. So inside this folder, we have this SQL developer folder. This SQL developer folder contains the application and all the supporting files available, supporting file for this software. So you just have to cut this from here and you have to paste in C drive directly in the root C drive. So here you can see this SQL developer is already there. So I will not paste here right now. So once you will open this one, you will be able to see this SQL developer. So you just have to send this SQL developer file to the desktop. So I will send it to desktop so that this icon we can use to run SQL developer each and every time. So now our SQL developer is available here. You can see this is the shortcut. So I again press that to again. So here this is our SQL developer shortcut icon. So now here we already done two steps. We downloaded the SQL developer software. We installed that Oracle XE database, and now it's time to use that SQL developer to communicate with Oracle XE database. So now what we will do, we will first open the SQL developer. So this is SQL developer tool. Just you have to open. So double click on the tool. It will be open that you can see Oracle SQL developer. And this is the version we are using. It's 23. You can use any of that tool. So it's suggested that go and download the second last version. That's going to be a step second last version. So now here you can see this is SQL developer tool. It's look like. So once you will open, this is our home page. So home page or welcome page, whatever we can see. I already have one connection created. So for each and every database, you have to create connection so that using that connection, you can interact with that database, right? So we install Rohit. Can you please check you are using a sketch or something? So please stop all this. So now here you can see this is our SQL developer and we have to use our SQL XE database here. So now here you can see we have to add that SQL XE database. So for adding that one, we already installed Oracle XE. If you will search here, Oracle, so we will see that somewhere. Not able to see, but yes, it's already installed. And the location, if you want to see that the software we install, somewhere we had you can see this is the Oracle XE software inside the app Oracle, and you can see all these are the Oracle XE database files that our local system is going to be treated as a database. That's why that Oracle XE install all the required information, all the required dependent file over there, all these things. So Oracle XE is installed in our system. Now it's time to use that one. So we open the SQL developer and we have to connect our SQL developer. This SQL developer we have to connect this SQL developer with our XE database. For that, first we have to create the connection. Make a note. You can make a note of that. First, we have to install Oracle XE database. Then we have to download SQL developer, extract that SQL developer, and we have to put that SQL developer in C drive. And after that, we have to create connection in SQL developer to interact with our XE database. For that, you can just click on this plus icon. Once you will click on this plus icon, it will ask you the name to for database connection. So this is the connection we have to create. For example, I given that name of that connection. So here I will give the name as, for example, I will give the name as XE, or give the name as Oracle and underscore XE. Oracle XE. Now you can see the data type is Oracle, and this is the user and this is the password. So if you remember, user was SYS and password I given as welcome at the rate 123. This is the password I given. Here we have option to save this password so that each and every time whenever we will connect, it will not ask the password. So I will make a tick of it here. Role, whatever is default, let it be the same. Connection type, it will be basic as I don't want to do anything. This cloud wallet is the connection type when we have to connect our cloud database. I will let you know this in upcoming days. And details you can see host name is the local host as this Oracle XE is installed in our local system. Port is 1521. It's by default generated by database. SID is XT. I will let it be the same. And this service name will not be available for this one because it's Oracle XE local database we install in our local system. That service name is going to use for a cloud database. So now we are done with all this information. This is our user. So using this user, we are going to interact with this database, that local host database or Oracle XE database we already installed in our local system. So this user and password will be used to connect with this database, and we taken help of this SQL developer tools to create a connection between our this SQL developer software and Oracle XE database. So now before going to connect, I want to test that connection that everything is fine or not. So here we have to click on test. So here it's saying that connection as system should be as sysdba or sys operator. So with default role, I will go for sysdba. That you can see that it's clearly mentioned that error. The user I use sys should be as a sysdba or sys operator OPR. So I will select sysdba and click on test again. So here you can see the status is success. It means that the user password and the role type I selected that is correct. The database details is correct. Now we tested that this connection is working successfully. It means that we are able to connect using this. So again here we added the save password. It means that this password will be saved for this user so that in every time we don't need to pass password again and again. And I also want to save the connection same as earlier I added the connection here, save m underscore dev. So here just click on save so that this Oracle underscore XE will be saved in the connection list. You can see Oracle XE. It's saved. Now I will click on connect so that our SQL developer software will be connected with using this connection to that Oracle XE database. Now here you can see this empty screen is displaying here. It means that our SQL developer is now connected with Oracle XE connection, and this connection is linked to Oracle XE database. So this is the way to install SQL developer software. This is the way to install Oracle XE database. And we have to create connection in SQL developer to interact with database. Now here we will write queries to interact with database table. So right now we don't have any table created. That's why we will not be able to see anything. If I will write select star, what is select and all these things, I will tell you later. And what is our table name? If you will see, our table name was student underscore TB. So if I'll write here student underscore TB, it will show an error. So here you can see I executed this code. So I submitted this code to Oracle XE database via this Oracle XE software. And when I submitted this code, SQL developer or SQL or SQL database throw an error saying that table or view does not exist. It's saying that this student underscore table you want to access doesn't available in our database. That's true. We have not created this table yet. So in next session, first we will create table, then we will tell you that how we can insert data into the table. We will retrieve the data from the table and all these things. So I hope it's clear to you all. If anyone having any questions and you want to ask, please feel free to unmute yourself and let me know your queries.